So today I wanted to share a crazy story. This is a story that happened to me, true story that I get asked questions about all the time. And so I wanted to tell you this story. I wanted to share some lessons I learned from this experience. I want to make sure that people understand what they can do and how I could have probably done things a little bit different. So I've been on thousands of listing appointments. I've helped so many sellers. And one of the things that you would deal with a lot of times are animals, right? And so on this particular occasion, I was on a listing appointment, head out to the house, get there. And when I get to the home, walk in, there was a very, very large, aggressive dog in the backyard. And this was a pit bull mastiff mix. So I could hear this thing just, going crazy. And then the owner would just start yelling at it. But it was outside. And so it kept barking and barking. And when you're going through the home, one of the things that I really want to stress to you as far as a very important lesson is never trust the owner on the dog, right? So even if it's outside and they're like, oh, he'll be fine, she'll be fine, it'll be fine, even if you're a dog lover, a cat lover, so just be careful, right? So they were like, oh, let me take you outside. And all I said was, please secure the dog before we head outside. I don't want to, just have any concerns or anything like that. Plus, when I was listening at a high level, I would wear very nice suits with a tie and, very, very, high-end suits because, again, I want to act and be a professional in front of my clients, and they deserve that. And I can tell you just from doing that, I got a lot of listing agreements signed, right? The more you look the part, the more probability you're going to get the part, okay? And the part you're playing is professional. So lesson one is always ask them to secure any animals and do anything to make sure that you feel safe, all right? So go through the listing appointment, they go outside, secure the dog inside of the garage, then take me outside, I look at the yard, dog's still going crazy, going nuts. I was like, oh my goodness. So go through my listing presentation and it's going, really well. They're like, yeah, Brendan, we love it. This is awesome. Going through it, I go right into my transition to close technique. And of course I get, in this instance, I get an objection, right? And the objection was, we need to speak to our attorney before we can sign anything tonight. And I went immediately to my checkdowns. Okay, so check down number one. So John and Susie, you do feel I can get your home sold, correct? They said yes. I go, then let's go ahead and do the right thing. Put me to work tonight. If your attorney has any issues, we can use my 100% satisfaction guarantee, and then we can tear up the contract tomorrow. No harm done. They go, yeah, Brendan, that sounds good, but we've got a lot of weird legal things going on, and our attorney specifically told us not to sign anything no matter what. I said, I completely understand, and again, I'm pretty relentless. I go, I understand that, and again, that's why it states right here in the additional provisions of my agreement that you can cancel at any time for any reason, no problem whatsoever. No, Brendan, not the right, no, we got to talk to the lawyer. I said, okay, great. I said, well, let me go ahead and do this. Let me go ahead and leave my lockbox here. I'm going to go ahead and just put it on the door. I'm going to put the code, I'm going to leave the code with you. And if for some reason the attorney doesn't feel we're the right fit and you don't want to move forward, you can keep the lockbox as a gift from me to you. Okay? They agreed to that. They said, okay, that sounds great, Brendan, fine, thank you. Boom, lockbox on door, not a problem. So then I leave and they call me a few hours later, which I thought was very interesting that they could talk to their attorney that quickly, but call me back a few hours later and they go, Brendan, we spoke to the attorney, we're good to go. Can you come back tomorrow and pick up all the signed agreements? Or the signed agreement. I said, absolutely not a problem. I can be there tomorrow. I said, after my lead generation time, does 1 o'clock work for you? Okay. So I didn't tell them after my lead generation time, but in my head, that's what I was thinking. So go back over to the house the next day and pull up to the house, start walking up. And this is Colorado. It was the first real snow dusting of the year. I remember it perfectly. You know, there's just beautiful white, super quiet. You can hear a pin drop because of that soft blanket snow. And I walk up. The owner opens the door. There was a little gate, like a little white picket fence, kind of funny. White picket fence. I unlock the latch, come in. She opens the front door, and as she opens the front door, this monster dog comes flying out, rushes me, bites into my face, right? And then takes a chunk out of my upper lip as he bites through my face. Blood just starts squirting everywhere, all over the white snow, like something out of a movie. I'm in a suit and it's just like all over my suit, and just a disaster, right? So I'm like, oh my gosh. And again, you're kind of freaked out. What happened? Oh my goodness, all this. She's freaking out. She's like, oh, like my big, crazy, scary dog just did this to you. Oh boy, not good. So she was like, oh my gosh, what can I do? Can I take you to the hospital? And I said, can you just grab me a towel or some paper towels to stop the bleeding? Now, my lip is hanging off by a thread, which I know is gross, but this leads in to a couple of the lessons that, we already talked about. One is make sure when you're there, if you can, and you see an animal, secure it. Lesson number 2 is in this one, always get the listing agreement signed on the first try so you don't have to go back. No, I'm just kidding. That's not the lesson. But lesson number 2 is when we're walking up to any property, you have to always be very, very alert and aware, right? Like there's probably, I don't know if I could have fought this dog off. I don't know whatever could have happened. But just remember, you never know what's going to open behind that door. You never know. I've seen everything, and I'm not trying to scare anybody, but this is real life, right? There's all kind of weird things. I've had listing appointments where people have had a revolver sitting on the counter. I've had listing appointments where people have literally arsenals of weapons. I've had listing appointments of every walk in nature. So make sure you're safe. Make sure people know where you're at all times, especially if you're a solo agent. Right? Make sure you're telling them where you're going. Make sure you have information on the owners. Always be very protective of what you're doing, okay? So be alert, be aware is this lesson number 2. Maybe I could have held up my Padfolio. Maybe I just wasn't even thinking about it. It was like, doop-de-doo, oh, hey-oh. And again, throw it up and say, hey, that's a random thing. But again, probably could have maybe done something to be a little bit safer in the last seconds there. So go to the hospital, have to have a plastic surgeon put my mouth back together. Had over 60 some odd stitches. They had to sew my lip from the inside. And what happened from there is then I couldn't talk for almost 2 weeks. So imagine being in sales. I've been selling hundreds of homes. This is what I do. I live off of being on the phone, lead genning, talking, doing these things. And I'm silent for 2 weeks, okay? So the third lesson that I learned during this quiet time was I had the first time in a long time to slow down and plan. And at this point, I was doing a lot of good business. I had a lot of good things going, but I was just going, and I wasn't stopping. And being silenced for 2 weeks and taking that pause that I couldn't really do much verbally gave me the time to start really doing some long-term business planning and some strategizing on what I wanted out of my real estate career and my future and my life. So took that pause, got all of that stuff written down, made some big decisions on how I was going to move forward, how I was going to prioritize things, had it all perfectly, did, vision board, the whole 9 during that time, and it changed my life. It made my life better. It made it more consistent. Again, you can't get to where you're going if you don't know where you're going. That's number 1. Number 2, you can't get to where you're going if you don't have a map, right? You might get there someday and zigzag all over, and maybe you'll never get there. But if you have a map and you go, I want to be here, I need to go do this, and this to make that happen, then you're going to need those types of things, right? You're going to need a map. You're going to need the goals. So we break all this down in what we call the 4 disciplines of execution. We're going to go over all that in future videos. It's an absolute game changer in your business. So those are the 3 main lessons I learned from getting attacked by a pit bull, bull mastiff dog and having my lip bit and ripped off. Thank you, plastic surgeon. Dr. Cote, you're amazing. Shout out to Dr. Cote, the plastic surgeon out there. But be careful, be safe. Make sure you're aware of your surroundings. Make sure somebody knows where you're at. And then make sure you take the time to pause and have a really detailed plan before you move forward, or during how you're going to basically plan out the course of what you want out of this world. All right. So again, in the comment box below, would love to hear your craziest story. Leave me a note. I would love to hear what happened to you, especially with animals. I know a lot of us deal with animals in the field. If you've got a funny story or a scary story, let us know. We'd love to hear it. Hit that like button, put it in the comment box. Let me know your thoughts. If you need any assistance from us or we can help you with anything at all, please visit brendanbartic.com. We'd love to be able to take you to the next level. And as always, I wish you great success.